What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and today I have for you a brand new Outer Worlds build, one that you guys have been requesting. This is the Simpleton, a dumb build, a low intelligence build, a character that has access to all the dumb dialogue options. This is a character that lacks some mental faculties, perhaps even a few chromosomes, but regardless of lacking mental acuity, this young man possesses something else, and it's called charm. He has the charisma to rule nations, to sway even the most unwilling of opponents. No matter how dumb he sounds, people just find him magnetic. They can't help but follow him. I used a bunch of inspirations for this build, but above them all, I chose to base him off Zap Brannigan from Futurama. He's a bit of a chauvinist and a little arrogant at times, but he has the levels of courage and confidence only allowed to him by his abysmal IQ. This is a build that focuses around smooth-talking companions and hilarious dialogue, and in my opinion, having companions is key here. They commonly react to your stupidity, and it just makes for some of the best interactions. Besides his charm and looks, he doesn't have much in the way of talents, at least to begin with, but he definitely looks the part of a heroic space captain, and he has the inspiration skill to match. But without further ado, let's get right into the character creation and sort out how this simpleton was made. Okay, so the first thing important for character creation is choosing attributes, so I'll go through each and every one and explain my choices. So firstly, we chose below average strength for the following reasons. A, we don't use melee. B, we don't really use time dilation heaps either, so the penalty to movement during it won't matter. And C, by laying out the attributes the way we have, we end up with balanced skills where we want them. But that will all become clear later on. Next up, we have dexterity, which I chose to move to a good ranking because we have the points, and it's a neat little boost to a bunch of relevant skills. You could, if you like, make strength and dexterity both average, but I like the way this calculated with skill boosts, so good ranking it is. Next up, we chose to have below average intelligence. Now, this is of course the anchor, the centerpiece of this entire build. We want dumb dialogue options because, after all, this build is a simpleton. Now, this comes with the consequence of suffering low critical damage, but we bypass this problem by having our combat focus on companion proficiency. Next up, we have to talk about perception, and mainly for the skill boost reasons, we set this at a good ranking, which gave us a nice little weak spot headshot damage boost. Next, we have the personality attributes. Firstly, charm we have at max, a ranking of very high, so that we can charm our way through every single faction, have high dialogue skills, and also make use of companion abilities non-stop. It's the secondary defining characteristic of this character, the other being woefully low intelligence. The final attribute to discuss is temperament, which we have at a rank of very high. Now, this gives us some useful skill boosts in the right areas, and with this exact attribute setup, we have the determination and inspiration skills perfectly balanced, so we aren't wasting any points when we invest in leadership. We also get the added bonus of incredible health regeneration, so there is some added bonus there, but a lot of the reasoning behind these choices can be attributed to a role-playing focus, of that being a really stupid character that is unbelievably charming and cool-tempered. The kind of guy with abundant confidence, probably more than he should have. So now we've talked about foundational attributes, let's start looking at starting skill choices. We'll be picking the dialogue and leadership skill groups, and they are the most important skills to focus on for this character. Now, a big reason behind choosing to be a high charm, low intelligence character that uses all of the companions is mainly for the many cool scenarios that involve dumb dialogue options, inclusive of a persuade skill or lie skill, as well as your companion's reactions to conversations. Hence, we choose to pick dialogue as a starting skill, taking our lie to 40 and our intimidate and persuade to 25. The other skill group choice, leadership, is very important because these two skills are vital to this character's playstyle, which has a sit back and watch the companions do the work, but have the ego and charisma combined with the dim-wittedness to proclaim himself a heroic captain kind of vibe. Determination and inspiration will both start at 25. Nice and balanced, so we'll get the most bang for buck skill point investment. For aptitude, you guys know I love the resistance-based ones, and for this character in particular, I thought Janitor was quite funny, and I'll talk about that more in the backstory. It gives us a tiny 3% boost to corrosive resistance, and for the character's appearance, I went for a Chad-like 50s Hollywood actor kind of look, all about the jaw, and I wanted to give him that Zap Brannigan kind of inspired look, the typical jock archetype. So I recommend doing something similar. I named my character Zap Brannigan, and you can do the same, but beyond that, we are ready to get into the game. Let's now discuss all the skill progression, perks, and flaws, all the things relating to how you're going to build your character along the way. Alrighty, so once we get down on the ground and find our way to the unreliable, we will hit level 2. Now, personally, I like to dump 10 points into the stealth group just to bump up hacking and lockpicking mainly, and allow us to access more gear in the first area, especially when we combine this with gear and also Pavati's skill boost to lockpicking. It's also key to get the Deadly Demonstrations perk as soon as possible, so level 2. Which means the second you get Pavati, you will be benefiting by letting her do the killing, or at least the finish off, which will get you 50% more XP, meaning more levels quicker, which means more skills and perks quicker. But back to skills, after that first investment into stealth, I find that in the first area, the dialogue skill levels we have are suitable to pass all the speech checks needed in the Emerald Vale, when combined with Pavati's Persuade skill boost. So I like to focus solely on the leadership skills for a few levels, and this also lays a very strong foundation for when we have multiple companions. So levels 3 and 4 will get us to 45 in determination and inspiration. I'd also recommend getting the precision perk, increasing companion crit chance by 15% at level 4, but come level 5, we'll put 5 points into leadership, bringing them both to 50, and then put the rest into inspiration. Come level 6, we will want to get inspiration to 60 with 5 points, unlocking one of the best skill abilities in the game, which doubles companion stat bonuses, an absolute vital part of any companion focus build, and the remainder 5 points can be put into determination, bringing it to 55. Level 7, which will probably be the level you finish Emerald Vale at, you'll want to put 5 points into determination, bringing it to 60, and unlocking the skill ability, allowing companions to receive an additional 25% from Adreno healing. Now, in my opinion, that is all we need from determination, with inspiration being the better leadership skill. The remainder 5 points from level 7 should go into dialogue just to buff it up a bit for the next area, meaning we will have a base 45 lie and 30 persuade and intimidate. And both Pavati and Vicamax, the first available companions, will boost your persuade and intimidate to acceptable levels while you invest in leadership for the next 4 levels. I also highly recommend getting the protective safety harness on Groundbreaker and then buy a silver tongue mod. This will boost your dialogue skills by a total of 10, as well as leadership by 10. This will help immensely. So as I said, we will now be, for the next 4 levels, that is until level 11, investing directly in inspiration, taking it to level 100. This unlocks 2 awesome abilities. At 80, when your companion kills an enemy, the whole party gains 20% crit chance for 5 seconds, and at 100, when a companion kills an enemy, all companion ability cooldowns decrease by 20%. So in short, with inspiration at 100, companions will be dishing out lots of damage, and their companion abilities will be able to be used most of the time. Okay, so now you're about to hit level 12. What now? Well, from here I recommend touching up on our dialogue skills. I liked to have access to as many options as possible, so I tended to invest fairly evenly, bringing them all to at least 50, and then investing in what I need from there. Now, this will depend entirely on your companion combinations, but also our gear, which we'll get to later, but we will be receiving big dialogue skill boosts, especially once we have the Armor Master perk, so bear that in mind. You can always respec later once you have better gear, so you don't overshoot in skill investment. Most companions boost one of your dialogue skills, so it works out best to have a combination that rounds them out, offering boosts to, say, Intimidate and Persuade, or Lie and Persuade, rather than a double boost to one such as Persuade, because that usually results in an overshoot. We'll discuss this more in the companion section next, but once you have a handle on skill distribution for dialogue, where are we putting our points? Well, personally, I like to round out our skills for what I think is the most benefit, so I invest into the stealth and tech trees to bring them up to about a value of 50, and that creates a great launching pad for the big companion skill boosts. It allows us to easily, say, get a lockpick value of 80 or something, or to have engineering at 80-ish. Then beyond that, you can more specifically invest. Science is one I'd recommend focusing more into after they are all brought up to about 50, mainly because science skill abilities are some of the best, because they allow you to upgrade gear for cheap, meaning you can keep your companion's gear top notch, but ultimately the things to remember for this build is Inspiration 100 and dialogue skills. They are your bread and butter, but don't worry about combat skills, you're the talker. Companions will do most of the damage, your weapon is just part of the heroic image. So now we want to talk about the essential perks for this build, and there aren't many. One of the things about companion focused builds is that you end up with lots of perk choice freedom, because you don't really need to invest in the combat related perks, which are a lot of them. So no time dilation perks, no harvester, none of that, because you aren't killing. From tier 1, you are going to definitely want precision, which increases companion crit chance by 15%, and you'll also want deadly demonstrations, which increases companion kill experience by 50%, and if you make it so companions kill all the enemies, you perhaps only weaken, then you'll effectively add 50% more XP to your combat experience, which helps you level up a lot. As you can see, I also chose toughness, because who doesn't love 50% more health, but I even spent points on better vendor prices and carry weight, which I would usually not recommend because there is a lot of opportunity cost related to combat, but this character just takes a shot or two from the sidelines. Plus, you'll probs want to bring around a bunch of gear to swap in and out for skill bonuses, as well as carry various weapons and gear for your companions. Now, tier 2 isn't that great for this build, so I only chose more carry weight and better selling prices, as well as tag team, which helps us get some more companion ability usage, but ultimately, none of this matters. I even went back and got the walk and sprint speed boost perks, but tier 3 is where we get a vital perk, which would be Armor Master, doubling our gear bonuses, which is just a fantastic perk. Ultimately, in summary for this build, precision and deadly demonstrations from tier 1 and Armor Master from tier 3 are the only real essentials. As for the rest, you could do whatever you really like. Just remember, the combat ones just aren't really that applicable to this build. Now, regarding flaws, I would strongly recommend against them, for the reason that there are so few great perks for this build that it would seem we would only really be taking on a weakness with no real payoff. However, you could argue it could help you get to Armor Master sooner, which is a fair call, but in that case, I would recommend staying away from flaws which affect the whole party, instead just getting ones like Plasma Weakness that only affect you. But now I think we're all done with the talk about skills in terms of progression, as well as perks and flaws. By now, you should understand how to get into the game and build your character, but let's talk about the icing on the cake, starting with companions. Now, for maximum enjoyment of the role-playing experience, I would recommend getting all the companions and doing all of their quests just for the dumb dialogue and funny interactions, so you may end up using a variety of companions all the time. However, for the most part, outside of companion side quests, I actually favored Parvati. Parvati is very kind and loyal, but also shy, and it's a fun contrast to the kind of character the Simpleton is, who is proud and confident, but also kind of dumb. She also has good boosts to Persuade and Lockpicking, which is very useful, so what I did was kit her out the best of all my companions, and then I would just rotate the other ones. So my main dialogue skills were Persuade and Lie. I put a bunch of investment into Lie, so a real value of 80, which with gear got me to 100, and then I only needed 50 in Persuade and Intimidate, and Parvati got to me 100 as well as gear. Now, if I used Sam or Vicamax, my Intimidate would get to 100, but usually I defaulted to Lie or Persuade anyways. Sam is actually quite a good companion for earlier on because his weapons can't be changed and are quite powerful, meaning you don't have to maintain or change his gear. And at the start, when you have less bits and less good gear, it makes it easier to only have to maintain one companion, like Parvati. So Parvati and Sam is a really good combo that complement each other. But there's plenty of fun ones, such as Ellie, who has some funny dialogue in regards to your simple brain, and Vicamax, a man of science and logic and reason, has some funny reactions to your simpler view of things. Ultimately, you'll want to rotate through all of them and do all their quests, but I would definitely recommend having one favored companion that you can focus on to give you the best gear, have them all the time, and then rotate the others for the other slot. That's all for companions. Time to talk about weapons and gear. So the most important factor here for our Simpleton build is actually gear skill bonuses. Hands down for appearance, armor rating, and skill bonus, all taken into consideration, the Chimera outfit is a perfect fit, offering plus 10 to all dialogue skills, and when combined with our Armor Master perk, that gives us a plus 20 to Persuade, Lie, and Intimidate. Now, I would recommend using this, and with our main quest path aligning with the corporations, we should be able to get access to the prerequisite quest early that allow us to receive this armor. Now, I would recommend using this, and with our main quest path aligning with the corporations, we should get access to this prerequisite quest early that allows us to receive this armor. We have a guide available on this on the channel. As for the headpiece, this can be variable. The nice hat is pretty good, but you can also use this slot to switch up skill bonuses as needed. As for weapons, I think anything goes. I chose to use an automag pistol, but honestly, it's your companion weapons that are far more important. Speaking of which, my setup that you see being used is to have Sam and then Parvati in a full set set of unique MSI heavy armor, which offers a ranged damage boost. I have her set to ranged only and gave her a really powerful weapon called the Pauper Popper, which can be bought from a Kande's assistant after certain main quests have been completed, but you'll want to hang on to most good gear and give it to companions whom skills it suits. If I find a banger weapon, then I give it to a companion, saving the more staple generic stuff for myself. But now we have the character completely built and equipped, let's get into his backstory and role-playing. As you can imagine, as all stories do, this one begins with birth, and unfortunately for the Simpleton, he was born with a, let's just say, severe IQ deficiency. Naturally, this would give him a rough time in academic pursuits, and to be honest, his education in general failed miserably. However, for what he lacked in mental capacity, it was doubly made up for by his personality. He was always confident, bordering on obnoxious and arrogant a lot of the time, but he was just so friendly. People would commonly say that it was just too hard to hate the guy, you couldn't help but love him. And it was for this reason that the Simpleton's life didn't suck entirely. He always had a way with women too, funnily enough, even smart women, but for all their intelligence, they couldn't resist his magnetic personality and handsome looks. To put it very plainly, for most of his life he was a total Chad, but an extra stupid Chad. Now, the problem for the Simpleton lies in his ambitions for life. They often far exceeded his intellect's potential. First, he wanted to be a stock trader, then it was a business owner, even wanted to get into chemistry at one point so he could make wonder drugs, but all of these endeavors ended in failure. But it was precisely his lack of intelligence that allowed him to get up every time he was knocked down. He was a fountain of confidence, an inspiration. He did manage to land a few modeling and background acting gigs, which made his mama proud. His mother always supported him. She cooked his meals, did his washing, and would always help him with resumes and giving him financial aid for his business ideas. She wasn't stupid. She was aware of her son's issues, but she just loved him too much. She always supported him. The Simpleton was a janitor working 6 days a week when his mother fell sick. Tragically, he could not afford the treatment that would save her life. Months later, she passed away, but not before making him promise to always chase his dreams. She told him that she would be with him always. The Simpleton learnt about the Hope, bound for the Halcyon system, a place where he could live a new life. His mother was gone, and most of his friends from school had moved on to bigger and better things. Well, this was his moment, so he applied, smooth-talked the interview, and he was on his way off to Halcyon, trapped in cryo for 70 years before Phineas Wells awakens him. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us up to speed with the Simpleton, Captain of the Unreliable. So as we've talked about for role-playing, this guy is big on making friends, and he makes friends with just about everyone. He has the uncanny ability to make everyone love him, and he'll do just that in the Outer Worlds. When a diplomatic or mutually beneficial option is available between factions, he'll pretty much always take it, and he values the words of his new friends quite highly. But he does enjoy the finer things in life, and he does often find himself oblivious to the malevolence of some factions, which is why he is so easily convinced and chooses to work for the board. The way I choose to play the Simpleton is help Edgewater and get the deserters to return without Adelaide, and then on Monarch, I help MSI and the Iconoclasts get along. Also, I make sure to get the best scenario for all, and I always try and collect as many companions as I can as soon as possible. And remember folks, that a big appeal of this build is the dumb dialogue options and interactions, so when you have a full party of companions and you endeavor to do the most amount of quests possible, well, then you're going to have the best time with this build. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Simpleton build, the ultimate dumb character experience. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this single brain cell build, and do subscribe to the channel for more similar content. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet. Social media links are in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.